Trump understands. Go back and you look at all these bull markets. Historically, there have been multiple 30% drawdowns in these bull markets. And so this, I joke, is like a crypto crash for ants. I think that Bitcoin is the king of the crypto market. It's going to remain the king of the crypto market. But I think the bigger thing about crypto, and Bitcoin in particular, is if you sold your Bitcoin because of geopolitical uncertainty, you had no clue what you were holding. The whole point of Bitcoin is that it is a non-sovereign asset. It is supposed to be the safe haven that you can go and hold regardless of what any government in the world does. And so I think that's part of what people are trying to figure out now is the hardcore Bitcoiners, they know that. They're looking to buy on dips, but you still get tons of new people who come in. And obviously, leverage plays a huge part of this. And so the big story over the weekend was there was $19 billion of leverage that got wiped out. Now, you can look at that as how the prices went down. The way I look at it is we just reset the entire leverage in the system, and therefore that probably clears us so that we can go higher.
As Bitcoin still remains down over 3%, and after the market crash last week, investors await, as the crypto market remains in limbo. But Anthony Pompliano issues a warning to all Bitcoin and crypto holders. And the sell-off we're seeing is only the beginning. The Bitcoin tsunami that's coming will change crypto forever. Pompliano discusses the inevitable collapse of the fiat money system as we know it, and says there's a plan to take over Bitcoin and crypto. With BlackRock being one of the biggest players to get into the space, this will be the least of our concerns, as entire countries are now coming for Bitcoin, with the current price sitting just over $111,500. In this latest interview, Pompliano discusses why it's more important than ever that nation-states adopt Bitcoin and incorporate into the global economy before the inevitable collapse of the current monetary system as we know it. Let's get right into the latest interview with Anthony Pompliano, as he gives us his prediction for Bitcoin in the coming months and why a massive surge in capital is about to pour into the space. Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.
Trump understands market hours of the stock market. So what did he do? He waited till the stock market closed on Friday, and then he came out and said, hey, we're going to put the 100% tariff on. I don't think that's a coincidence. As the market corrected in after-hour stock, there's just not that many people who have access to the aftermarket stock. So what do? They look in their portfolio and they say, well, what market is open? What market has liquidity right now? If I want to sell, if I want to change my financial life or my portfolio, I'm going to sell cryptocurrency. And so Bitcoin specifically sold off. It sold off $13,000, which is a pretty big move, right? I mean, an asset went down $13,000 in a single day, but it's only about 10% to the crypto crowd. Now, to the stock market, if the stock market goes down 10, 20%, they're freaking out. They're talking about the Great Depression. They're, 1929, they're doing all that kind of stuff. In the crypto, again, it doesn't feel good to see your assets go down 10%, but it is still pretty small compared to what everyone has lived through. There's somebody who was chirping at me on Twitter yesterday, and they said, why are you saying that we shouldn't be worried about a market correction? I said, my brother, we've lived through 80% drawdowns in 4 years. I said, your stock market crashes, they don't even register for the crypto people. So I think that plays into a lot of what's going on with the retail folks.
By the way, it's interesting what you say. The fact that for the regular guys that are trading after hours are like, what do I mess with now?
They don't have access to anything.
They don't have access to anything. What they do with crypto, you can track what Bitcoin's doing.
Gold's closed, stocks are closed, bonds are closed, everything is closed.
Oh, wow.
Now, here's the thing, is Trump on Sunday night, I posted this meme. It's like abracadabra, make the markets go back up, right? What does he do? He tweets out an hour and a half before a futures open on Sunday night. The guy knows what he's doing. And so that's fine. Understand that. $19 billion, if you wipe out $19 billion of leverage, that doesn't mean that people holding cryptocurrencies lost $19 billion, right? If you put, $10 in, but you get $100 of leverage, right? You didn't put $100, you put $10 in. So there's some math that I think is a little bit misleading. The second thing is, when prices go down, sometimes people make money. When prices go up, people make money. It's all about what are they positioned, how are they positioned, all that kind of stuff. There is a trend that is happening in America, but also globally, which is the intertwining of finance and entertainment. And what you now see is whether it's the prediction markets, whether you see it's the stock market, whether you see crypto, people want something to talk about. I joke all the time, like financial markets have become like soap operas for young people. And so not only is there the gambling or speculation component to it, but what now in crypto is you have on-chain analytics. You can go and you can see what are the positions people are taking, what wallets are moving, right? All this information is almost like kind of new media to them. They immediately begin scouring all this data, trying to find some storyline, who caused it, who knew what, right? Who made money here? And so when they find this, they kind of latch on to it. Now, does this person have information about the tariffs? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know who the person is, right? And so I tend to think that good investors, they're not paying attention to this stuff. They're just saying to themselves, listen, I want to continue to acquire this asset, hold it for a long time. They're not going to stop printing money. Bitcoin's not going to stop going up. And it is going to be a great way to protect your economic value that you've earned. I don't think that thesis has changed. I actually think it's stronger today. You know, it kind of went from a contrarian trade to a consensus trade. And now the world has kind of woken up to the fact that this thing's going to work. The other part that, you know, if you go back to 2016, 2017, that I've always thought was going to happen, whether, again, the hardcore Bitcoiners, whether they like it or not, is this whole tokenization thing. And ultimately, my understanding of the intersection of, call it crypto and Bitcoin with Wall Street is once Wall Street figured out that they could make money, they'd go all in. And that's what you've pretty much seen. Bitcoin ETFs, BlackRock now, the Bitcoin ETF is their single most profitable product in their entire product suite. So is BlackRock a Bitcoin company? It's the most profitable product they have, right? So now all of a sudden, every other firm on Wall Street says, wait a second, if they're making a bunch of money on this, maybe we should start participating. And so you're going to see a bunch of people start going in there. Then you start to see the Bitcoin companies, right? The ETF is a Wall Street wrapper for Bitcoin. Now you start to see these public companies putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. That's a Wall Street wrapper around Bitcoin. What you're starting to see them talk about is they want to basically rip out cost and inefficiencies from the way that they trade stocks, the way that they trade various assets through this whole idea of tokenization. Now, there's still a lot to figure out. The technology seems to work, but I don't think this is going to be a retail-driven thing. I think this is going to very much be an institutional-driven thing where they say to themselves, all the plumbing in Wall Street is, you know, T2 settlement times. If I go to buy a stock, I don't actually get it till tomorrow. You know, it's just kind of very antiquated type technology. These guys want to upgrade that stuff. But the actual work that they're doing is very, very kind of nerdy. And so I think that will become a huge part of this story. But I don't think we're going to be talking about quote unquote crypto. I think that's going to be much more of a kind of an institutional story. And so I think that is a very profound solution that is going to have an impact that we quite don't understand yet, frankly. Right. So I think that's one big problem. The second problem that I'm very interested in is this idea of the little guy or the quote unquote retail investor being able to get a level playing field against these large institutions. And I think that those two issues are very interrelated because now what we know in this country is you can't be a saver, you need to be an investor. As these retail folks realize I have to become an investor, they need access to information, they need access to the market.
Anthony says it's the fastest pace of adoption of any investable asset in all of human history. By the end of 2025, there will be 1.1 billion active crypto wallets. The pace of growth is hard to comprehend, and it will be the fastest accumulation of wealth we have ever seen. This is the conclusion of a career's worth of research, and every single chart and piece of research leads to the same conclusion. Liquidity drives everything, and crypto will be the best performing asset of them all. Pompliano has been stressing to investors for months that all the factors are beginning to align right now. A period characterized by parabolic moves upwards in crypto prices.
Do you own other things?
I own Bitcoin is probably 90+%
Got it.
Of the portfolio. And then I very publicly in December of 2023, I had so I started out mining Ethereum way back in the day. I sold Ethereum and bought Solana, which ended up being a great trade. And I specifically said, look, this is a trade. I don't.
Nothing more, nothing less, yeah.
I'm not going to be holding Solana, 5 years from now, right? But it's just from this perspective. And I think it's probably the only truly institutional asset that you're going to see central banks and others start to buy over time. I think that the market is very, very good at figuring out where value ends up accruing. And what you see in, let's call it outside of Bitcoin in the top 10 coins, what you will start to see is Bitcoin's dominance has not only remained constant, it has actually gone up over time. And so I think that the market is assigning Bitcoin as kind of in a class of its own. Now, if you then go into, let's say, coins 2 through 10, what you start to find is those are much more akin to me to like technology stocks. There's a lot of competition there, right? So take XRP. My understanding is that they have a couple of different things that they've done. They're trying to do the stablecoin, right? Well, they've got a lot of competition from Tether, Circle. Now all of a sudden Stripe's getting in the game. Like there's a whole bunch of competition. There will probably be multiple winners, but it's heavy, heavy competition. On top of that, one of the things that is interesting to me, not so much about XRP, the coin, but about Ripple, the company, is they have this kind of engine to generate profit and monetize that XRP. They've started to acquire real companies. So what they did is they bought, I think one of the companies was called Hidden Road, and these are like big acquisitions. These aren't like $5 acquisitions. These are like $1 billion+ acquisitions that they're doing. And so what you're starting to see is again, there's incredible controversy and debate, I think, over is XRP going to be sustainable? Is it something that people are going to use? But what they've started to do is they started to take, I mean, look, $200 million acquisition, $1.25 billion acquisition, $250 million acquisition, right? And so what they're doing is they're essentially using the monetization of their balance sheet, and they're starting to acquire real companies. Now, what I will say is we have seen this happen in traditional finance over time. You have a company that has very controversial or maybe unsustainable kind of business model, but they have some access to capital, and they begin to convert that into something else. And, you know, look, the Bitcoin treasury companies, a lot of them had companies that weren't working, and they said, well, why don't I just start to buy Bitcoin? And all of a sudden, they kind of revive their business. And so I think that this is very interesting. Now, you know, there's kind of a delineation between XRP and Ripple, but I think that this acquisition stuff, people in the industry, even the people who don't like XRP, I think are saying to themselves, hey, that hidden road, that's a real company. Okay, you may be able to end up with an entire set of infrastructure there that you can then go and actually build a business with.
What does Hidden Road do?
Hidden Road, if I remember correctly, they do a lot of, it's like market infrastructure, right? So like, again, it goes back to this idea of where value accrues in the crypto industry is really kind of two, and really in finance in general, there's two buckets. You have the retail facing platforms, and then you have institutional facing like infrastructure. And so the retail platforms, that's your Coinbases, Binances, Geminis, you know, Tethers, all those guys. But then you've got this like institutional infrastructure, everything from market making to a global credit network for institutions, prime brokerage, clearing, financing, right? All this stuff that is very institutional in nature. I've always just said that, you know, my focus is on Bitcoin because I think of that there's two problems in the world that I care about, and they're very interrelated. The first is I believe that the single biggest issue, if you can correct this one issue, it will have a profound impact on people's lives around the globe, is if you can basically stop the debasement of the currency. If you can stop that, then all of a sudden now what you do is you stop this silent theft, and now you allow people to actually keep the economic value that they've worked hard to earn. And so Bitcoin to me is the solution to that problem. There's kind of this heuristic of people have been complaining about this for decades, centuries, right? If you go back through all these societies, Bitcoin is the first technology solution to the problem.
Pompliano foresees a looming economic catastrophe driven by collapsing fiat money systems, rampant inflation, and bank failures. He suggests that a transition to a Bitcoin standard might be on the horizon as the world grapples with the impending crisis. He asserts that the promises made by the Federal Reserve and central banks have been hollow, leading to excessive money printing and a proliferation of poor investments. And with the aftermath of the recent inflation surge, Anthony says this will not lead to a return to the status quo. He argues that the economy has spun out of control with the US facing a mounting debt crisis. Pompliano presents two bleak possibilities: hyperinflation or a deflationary depression. In either scenario, the overall quality of life deteriorates. He notes the absence of viable solutions, indicating an even greater severity of the crisis. Interestingly, he points out how political figures are discussing Bitcoin as part of a potential solution, marking a shift towards a Bitcoin-centric financial framework. What do you think about the latest interview with Anthony Pompliano? And what are your thoughts on his prediction for Bitcoin? Drop your comments down below and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here.